Everybody, it's been a long day, hasn't it? A lot of us woke up early this morning with intense winds in the River Valley. Late this afternoon, intense winds, extremely large hail. You're probably tired of the weather. We've had rounds even before today over the last several, and so you've got a little bit of weather fatigue. And the last thing you want to hear from me is, yeah, we've got more storms on the way. Potentially some tonight. We're going to really focus a lot on what's likely going to set up for us tomorrow. We do have a 5 News weather impact alert in effect for your afternoon and evening tomorrow. Unfortunately, the parameters, and I'm going to walk you through a lot of them, that's driving some of these risk factors are a little bit higher tomorrow. That could potentially support some strong tornadoes. More often than not, our tornadoes here locally, EF0, EF1, those are technically considered weak. I hate calling any tornado weak, but that's technically the classification those would be put under. Tomorrow we're looking at the potential of EF2 or greater. Looking at the potential of 2-inch in diameter hail or greater, kind of like what we saw today. 60-mile-per-hour winds or greater, kind of like what we saw today. The difference with tomorrow is it's more of a classic severe weather setup. Now, the key takeaway is that doesn't mean everybody sees all of those. It doesn't mean everyone's going to see bad weather. It doesn't mean we're looking at a severe weather outbreak. No one here locally, well, no one here at 5 News using that term, but it does mean tomorrow's going to be a day that you really want to monitor the forecast. Have a couple of ways to receive some warnings. NOAA Weather Radio, 5 News app, television station, radio station. Have a way to receive warnings wherever you're at. We'll start with the big picture. This is going to be the Storm Prediction Center map. They produce this a couple of times a day. This is the latest. It's been upgraded to a level 3 potential for all of East Oklahoma, all of West Arkansas. That's the orange there. This is out of a potential scale of 5. I know a lot of you know this, but for the chance that someone's kind of unfamiliar with severe weather season around here and you're maybe tuning in, I'm going to walk a little bit more elementary than I might otherwise, just to make sure everyone's operating on the same page here. So this is the big picture. We're kind of in the middle range of the scale. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the Storm Prediction Center is going to release another update to this. And what they've told us consistently today is they have considered upgrading portions of the area, maybe not us necessarily in the 5 News viewing area, but somewhere within that 3 or orange zone, they might have to upgrade it to a 4. The reason they've chosen not to do that twice today at each of their different updates is there is still some degree of uncertainty with regards to tomorrow's storm evolution. How do these storms develop? Are they going to be individual discrete supercells? Are they clusters of cells that might work against each other? Or is it a big line segment? And those uncertainties are driving their decision to let's hold it at a 3. We feel confident at a 3 for now, but we're reassessing every few hours. And we'll get that update around 1 o'clock this morning. We'll share that with you. Of course, we'll share the very latest on 5 News this morning coming up tomorrow. If you don't want to wait till 1 a.m., I totally understand. With those risk zones, we can peel back the layers and we can look at each individual hazards. Tornado on the left, hail in the middle, wind. Let's kind of walk through this. There's a lot of different colors. There's some weird black hash marks. What does all of this mean? So our tornado potential for the entire 5 News viewing area here is in yellow. Me personally, I call that the elevated category. It technically, numerically represents a 10% chance of seeing a tornado tomorrow. You see 10%, relatively low, and technically speaking, it is. Tornadoes are somewhat isolated. They always are, right? So the fact that we're looking at a 10% though is actually a little bit concerning to us. Often we're looking at 2 and 5%. I share that context with you just so you can have an idea of what these numbers and these colors actually mean. What about these black hash marks here? So that's not telling us that the potential for a tornado is any greater or lower. What that's telling us is the Storm Prediction Center is saying, hey, the ingredients that are going to be above you, the ingredients that are going to be available for any storm that gets going, could very well potentially support EF2 or greater. We're talking stronger tornadoes. If those black hash marks weren't there, that would be the Storm Prediction Center saying you might have some lower end tornadoes. They're saying, you know what, you got to watch. There's going to be enough ingredients of various different types. We'll walk through some of those and kind of what they're checking out as. It would support some longer track tornadoes out there. Again, doesn't mean we're looking at a tornado outbreak. Doesn't mean that likelihood is any higher or greater. We just got to be really mindful if rotation gets going tomorrow, it may go pretty quickly. We saw a lot of hail today, extremely large hailstones, potentially as large as baseball size hail. None of us want to deal with that again. It's a possibility in some of the strongest storms tomorrow. Red here represents a 30% chance of seeing a severe hail report within any given location. We call that the enhanced category here. Black hash marks kind of symbolizing the same thing here. If you do get a storm to produce hail, it's probably going to be 2 inches. Well, it could very well be 2 inches or greater. Not probably, could. That's just telling us, again, there's going to be a lot of storm fuel, and I'll show you the storm fuel, and you'll see exactly why we think that. When it comes to the damaging straight line wind potential, it's at that 30% red enhanced zone as well. Not seeing black hash marks there. We'll have to watch to see what the next update has in store for us. Again, that's at 1 o'clock this morning. I want to show you something that I don't show on air often. In fact, I don't know if I ever have. Maybe I have, I don't know. I don't show this on air a lot because I often don't have enough time to give some context as to what this actually is. I'm calling this the tornado risk. What this technically is called the Significant Tornado Parameter, STP. The STP is a model that we use. It's a product, it's an equation, and it's looking at all of the different ingredients, or the main ingredients, we should say, that are required to support tornadoes. And when you factor all that in, kind of where are we on the scale? Are some ingredients lacking? Are others exceeding? Are they all high? Are they all low? And this gives us kind of an easy way to identify areas in which a lot of those tornado ingredients potentially could be overlapping. This is noon tomorrow. We're kind of already in that moderate risk zone. The atmosphere at that time is expected to already be somewhat unstable, and that's at noon. And keep in mind, it's going to be that daytime heating when we warm up into the mid-80s tomorrow and it gets hot and muggy. That's really when we're going to see some of those ingredients escalate. So we're starting off somewhat high already throughout the course of the day. Going into 3:30 in the afternoon, you start to find some of these more reds and these pinks. So we're kind of getting up there closer into that high category here and there. Now, the data, what it's doing is you might see a dropout here in the Florida, or a dropout over here near Tulsa, and it's not a contiguous pink or purple, and you go, okay, why is that hole there? The model thinks there's going to be a thunderstorm there at that time, in which case it may be raining, and that may take away some of the fuel there. So some of the data a little bit contaminated. You got to kind of read between the lines. You see why I don't show this on air a lot? It requires a lot of context. And without context, I think it just scares people, and that's not my goal. I want to provide some context behind what we're looking at here. This is going to be 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. What's going to be happening tomorrow evening is what's called the low-level jet stream. You know what the jet stream is. It's the big band of winds way up high in the atmosphere. We often see low-level jets, which is a few thousand feet above the ground, and that wind is going to start to increase by tomorrow evening. That's a key critical factor in getting tornadoes and storms to start to spin. You add in that wind shear. So we start to see south of I-40, that potential, we're kind of getting in that high category. You find a few of those purples, that risk is going to try to move towards the north. This is 10 o'clock tomorrow evening, and there's a lot of us from Fayetteville towards the south that certainly see some higher risk numbers here when it comes to the significant tornado parameter. It's a model, it's a simulation, it's a computer. You know what I'm about to say because I say it a lot, right? It's not the gospel. It doesn't tell us definitively something's going to spin. There are some fail points here. There are some bust potentials in the forecast that would make all of this for naught. I show this to you tonight because I wanted to peel back the layers and let you kind of walk through the forecasting process that we're going through this evening to kind of see some of the things and get an idea of why tomorrow is a little bit of a concern for us, and give you some context and clarity as to why it's going to be important to be weather aware. A lot of that's going to push out of the area overnight. I think by sunrise Tuesday morning, we're probably going to be in fine shape. There could be some rain and maybe even a couple of thunderstorms continuing, but a lot of that pushing into southeast of us. Let's talk about the storm field. We've talked about this a little bit lately. This is actually right now. There's a warm front draped south of I-40, and it's the leading edge right here. This warm front is going to be lifting towards the north all night long while you're asleep. That's why there's also some severe weather potential tonight with this specific warm front lifting through. South of the warm front, it's going to get warm and it's going to get humid, and that's going to start to build up that storm fuel. You probably know what I'm talking about. Storm fuel is actually just some silly name. I'm a hillbilly a hillbilly name I put to it. It's called convective available potential energy. But the truth is, you know what I'm talking about. You know those days where you can just feel it? You just got that feel. And I don't even know how else to describe it, but a lot of you just know. It's just got that feeling. The air is thick. It's muggy. That's what we're talking about. It's fuel in the atmosphere that will allow these updrafts to really get going. The taller the thunderstorm, the stronger it is. With this storm fuel, that allows those clouds to billow into cumulonimbus clouds, and that is going to be relatively high south of that warm front. It's going to be lifting way north, as far north as probably northern Missouri into Iowa. So we're going to be in what's called the warm sector, where we have extreme storm fuel. This is 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We're getting into that daytime heating. It's hot, it's muggy. And you notice a lot of us we got that Pepto-Bismol pink. That puts us kind of in this high category. This is 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram. That's the real technical nerdy stuff right there. It's high, okay? And so that's why we've got a potential for not only strong thunderstorms that could produce large hail. These tall updrafts fueled by that abundance of storm fuel would support that. Some strong damaging winds, and then your tornado potential starts to come together there as well. That continues up until we start to see some thunderstorms moving in. Rain-cooled air may help to stabilize the atmosphere a little bit before the worst of the storms get going. That's one of those bust potentials that we're looking for and maybe to some extent hoping for, that will continue into the overnight hours. Okay, so I want to walk you through Futurecast. Again, this is a simulation. I'm actually going to walk you through two different simulations, two different Futurecasts. This one is the high-resolution rapid refresh radar. It is one of the more commonly accessible short-term high-resolution models. I'm going to show you a different one that has a different idea of how things are going to shake out. Honestly, it's just differences of opinion. They have different physics, different calculations they're running. They just see the world a little bit differently, if you will. And I show you both tonight because that gives us a range of different potential outcomes that we've got to assess going into tomorrow to kind of get an idea of, okay, best case scenario is this, worst case scenario is that. What happens is it probably somewhere in the middle. So we go into tonight quiet through at least the 10:30 hour. We are watching some showers right now as we speak. North Texas, likely going to be crossing the Red River Valley. Some of those could work their way into the area. This would indicate to us that for the most part, those are probably showers, maybe a couple of claps of thunder. We're going to keep a team here overnight just to make sure none of those develop into some severe thunderstorms. We wake up with some sunshine out there tomorrow morning, partly cloudy skies, 8 a.m. Should be fine heading to work and school, at least initially in the morning. We'll have to watch for some additional showers, some thunderstorms. This is noon, so the atmosphere, keep in mind, at this point, it's starting to get locked and loaded with that storm fuel, that significant tornado parameter, those numbers starting to come up around this time as well. By 1 o'clock, we could very well start to see a few spotty showers begin to develop, some of those south of I-40. These are not severe in of themselves. They might help us in a weird sense. They could, in theory, pose a certain risk, such as hail and wind early on. The early developing thunderstorms might, which none of us want to deal with that. But that may rob the later storms that have a better tornado potential once that low-level jet kicks in, right? Of some of that moisture and available energy. If that happens, you know, it's pick your poison, hail, wind versus tornado, and I think a lot of us would rather just do hail and wind again, like what we did today. This is 4:30 in the afternoon. These could grow somewhat strong pretty quickly. This is, again, a simulation. I'm not telling you for sure it's going to storm at 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. But if this happens, this is somewhat of a messy storm mode. Which storms nonetheless, messy to the extent that maybe it kind of mitigates against that later threat going into the afternoon and evening hours, 5 p.m. here. These very well could be strong to severe, likely are if anything like that is even remotely accurate or what radar could remotely look like. Now, if it's not storming at all, noon to 5 tomorrow, I'm going to be a little bit more nervous, okay? Rain and storms, while none of us want to deal with them, are going to help mitigate some of that evening tornado potential. Mitigate, but not eliminate. Okay, hear me say that. Just because if you see storms and rain in the afternoon and evening doesn't mean that we entirely eliminate the tornado potential. It just means maybe we're lowering it just a bit. We'll keep an eye by 7 o'clock to not only what's happening here locally, but off towards the west, it's these cells that are going to be developing in East Oklahoma back towards Tulsa along a dry line. These are the ones that are actually going to have a higher propensity to rotate. Our tornado potential with these cells here are going to be a little bit higher than, let's say, this cluster of thunderstorms moving through the area. Again, not to say these won't rotate. It's a real possibility. It's these, though, that are going to be watched very closely, those semi-discrete supercells congealing into a bit of a line segment moving into the area later tomorrow evening, 9, 10 o'clock likely, going into the late evening hours, probably closer to midnight before we're entirely done with this at the earliest. I think more likely it's probably going to be 2 2, 3, 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. Tuesday morning, I should say, before a lot of that is out of the area. So that's how one model sees it. This is how another one sees it. It wants to bring a big complex tonight. Not sure about that. We'll pause this here. Did I add pause points? I didn't. So that's just going to go off to the races. Hold on. Let me back this up. I thought I was prepared, and I'm not, and I apologize for that. This model at 4 o'clock, this is called the Graph model. It's our in-house computer model. It's actually not publicly available. It's exclusive to a station like ours, and we use it quite a lot as well. And you'll see by 4 o'clock, it develops some scattered thunderstorms out there. By 6 o'clock, we're still seeing some scattered activity, some of those concerning. You look back off towards the Tulsa area, that's the storms firing up along the dry line that would potentially have that higher propensity to rotate, moving into our neck of the woods by 8, 9 o'clock. And some of those very well could continue even beyond that. That's going to be closer to the midnight hour. You can still see some strong thunderstorms moving through. So a couple of different models see things differently. Remember at the top of this little segment, we talked about the uncertainty that's preventing the Storm Prediction Center from upgrading to a level 4. This is that uncertainty. This is literally what they're looking at and saying, okay, when these two models, and there's some others out there too, several others, are seeing things a little bit differently, you got to kind of pause and you got to take it all with a little bit of grain of salt. And you really, at this point, models are not really going to be useful for much longer to us. We're going to get to a point by tomorrow morning where sure, we're going to look at them and we'll show them to you, but it's going to be one of those situations where you start nowcasting and you're just looking at current observations and getting an idea of what may happen. So that's that. When it comes to overall threats for tomorrow, as I see it, I'm going to keep tornado, hail, and wind equally in the medium category. Flooding in the low category. I think these storms will move quick enough that while I can't rule out some isolated flooding potential, there is going to be a little bit lower potential of that. So that's how we see that. Here's the overall setup, and I'm actually going to do something, well, let me walk through the big setup, and I'm going to show you something else that takes a little bit of manipulation off screen here. So this is the big picture. This is that warm front that right now it's moving through, right? This is about 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And so south of that warm front, you have warm air. You have muggy air. This is what we call the warm sector. It's going to feel juicy out there. Dew points near 70 degrees. When it comes to severe weather, you want 4 things. You need 4 things. And I use the acronym SLIM. Shear, lift, instability, moisture. Let's start with the moisture, the M. You're going to have plenty of it. Behind that warm front, you're going to have dew points in the upper 60s, low 70s. It's going to feel muggy and tropical out there tomorrow. You also need lift, and we're going to have 2 different lifting mechanisms. We're going to have this dry line in central and east Oklahoma. That's going to lift or spark some of those thunderstorms. And beyond that, you've also got a cold front that's eventually going to overtake the dry line. It's going to be sweeping through the area. That too can serve as a lifting mechanism for these storms. When it comes to instability, that's the storm field we talked about. It's the same thing. It's just different terms. It's literally the same thing. We're going to have plenty of that. Obviously, you saw that. But what about wind shear? So bear with me here for just a second. I'm going to show you a couple of different things here. When we talk about wind shear, we're talking about wind that changes directions with height and speed with height. And so what I'm first going to do is I'm going to put on the low-level winds. This is going to be surface winds tomorrow, right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Ahead of our dry line, they're generally going to be right out of the south, maybe a little bit southeast. If we go more southeast, I'm going to be a little bit more concerned, but generally right now, our anticipation is these winds right out of the south. So you kind of get an idea of that. We need wind shear though. We need them to change with height to create severe thunderstorms, or we don't want that, but that's what's needed. So let me turn that on. Now this is about to get really messy. You're going to see a whole bunch of spaghetti on here. These are those mid and upper level winds. This is that low level jet kicking in, and you notice they're more southwesterly. So think about this. You remember those tops you get as a kid that you take your fingers with and you spin them? You know, your fingers are going in opposing directions. That's the exact analogy of what's happening here with those winds. So we've gone through the 4 ingredients. That's the shear, and there's a whole lot of it. I know that looks real messy out there. That's just the best way I could do to depict that specific ingredient there with those specific storms. That's the setup. That's what we're looking at. What's happening out there right now? I'd be remiss if we didn't take a look at live radar. Most of us are quiet. It's pulling up right here. We're scanning the skies. We do have some scattered showers out there. Nothing severe, nothing even remotely potentially severe, at least as of this moment. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch for Johnson County. That's continuing for a little bit longer. We're going to be generally in fine shape in the near term. One of the things that we're watching really of two different systems that could potentially impact the area into the overnight hours. You can see some of those showers and storms crossing out of Texas into southeastern Oklahoma. Those likely would bring some additional rain to the River Valley. The question is it going to move more east-northeast, or is it going to be moving more northeast? And right now, we're kind of in a waiting mode to see kind of what that activity shakes out to be. I think more rain than anything else would be the more likely concern, but given that warm front is lifting through, there's going to be some evidence of storm fuel out there even tonight that we'll have to watch. We're also going to have to watch northwest Oklahoma. You can see there's going to be south central Kansas, but there's general expectation of some storms to fire over here. Those would be tracking east-northeast, and the expectation is that a lot of that would move into southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri. For me personally, too close for comfort. Could it clip parts of our area? It's a possibility. It's a remote possibility, but it is nonetheless a possibility that we want to be mindful of. So we'll have more on that in the short term. Overnight forecast coming up in your 5 News at 10. Joshua Weisel in working on that for us. And then if something pops up overnight, of course, we'll have some streams going for you there. All right, this stream here on 5 Plus went a little longer than I anticipated. I hope some of that's helpful for you. Our intention is to have another stream like this. Meteorologist Stephen Elmore around 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. He'll give you the very latest there. All of us are going to be in pretty early at some point tomorrow, if we even leave. I don't know if we will at this point. So we'll walk you through everything tomorrow, just some housekeeping of how it's all going to lay out and work with where are we at, streaming, TV, radio. We'll fire up streams right here on 5 Plus first when severe thunderstorm warnings are issued. That's often how things start. Not always, but often. And when things go tornado warned, we'll fire up television as well. Our radio partners at iHeartMedia are geared up and ready to simulcast our coverage there as well, should it be needed. And so we're going to find ourselves in as many places as we can for tomorrow. One final thought. Especially in recent days, given today, I know there's a lot of storm fatigue. I think I mentioned at the top of it. I say all this, and I showed you some maps and things that I don't typically show in here because I wanted the context to give you a little bit of peace of mind to kind of have an idea of what we're looking at. My hope is that nothing was scary for you tonight. That's certainly not the intention at all. That stuff weighs heavy on me when I show you something that scares you. So that's not at all what I wanted to do. Tomorrow's setup isn't anything uncommon. Let that marinate. Tomorrow's setup isn't anything uncommon. We deal with setups like tomorrow at least a couple of times every spring. So while some of it sounds a little bit alarming and flashy, we've done it before, we've gotten through it, we'll be okay. So no reason to have a little anxiety tonight. Just have a way to receive warnings tomorrow. That's literally all you got to do. Have a way to receive warnings, know where you're going to go if a warning is issued for your location. It's those basics there. We've also got a list of storm shelters, publicly available storm shelters over on 5newsonline.com. You can look for those there as well. That's going to do it for this stream. We're back here in just a little more than 30 minutes for your 5 News at 10.